You're listening to The Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Practical Wealth Show. So I have a great guest. I have Mr. Scott Reib. Scott is known as America's legal coach. Okay, so this could be a great episode. And he's the official Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite business philosophers, trainers. So that whole philosophy I studied when I was young in business. He's a Zig Ziglar small business lawyer, a Ziglar Legacy Certified Trainer, and he has spent over 20 years of experience as an attorney. And for the last 2 decades, Scott has been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and service providers to shatterproof their businesses and succeed in the professional world. So Scott's a firm believer that seeking legal advice doesn't have to be intimidating or expensive. We like that. And if we treat lawyers like primary care doctors instead of ER doctors through his subscription-based Access Legal Plan, Scott is making strides in shifting that perspective. And so, Scott, first, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Curtis.
And it's my pleasure. And so before I jump in, I had a question, but tell him what I didn't tell him. Did I leave anything out?
Yeah, that's a pretty good professional rundown. And then I'm married. I've been married for almost 30 years and have two boys. One's senior in high school, about to be 18, and then one's graduating from college and getting married. Awesome. So I've got a pretty busy, full life. But my passion is helping business owners shatterproof their businesses and then grow them and have profits that last.
Well, we like that because we're all about that. So let's jump in. And why should because I want to go back. So the title of this show, just for you guys, so you know what we're going to get into. We're going to go into the 5 strategies to shatterproof your business. Which I think is because you got to build wealth, you got to make money, keep money, and grow money. Or should have 3 skills you have to have making money, but you also have to play defense. So in our system, we teach the 5 principles of wealth building. And principle 1 is save 20% of your income. Principle 2 is protection. And so protection is playing defense. And part of that is entity, asset protection, all of that stuff. And so this is going to be a great episode to really bring that out. But why should we treat lawyers like primary care providers instead of ER doctors? Explain that. Your philosophy around that.
Yeah, and it's a real paradigm shift because traditionally lawyers are emergency rooms. They're the last place that you want to go. There's some reasons for that. It's because the business model for law firms has been, for at least for the last century, has been that you pay them by the hour. Mm-hmm. So a lawyer's in control of the time and the rate that they charge you. And so they pretty much can make whatever they want to make. And what happens is that, every time you call a lawyer, money flies out of your pocket. So you don't call a lawyer. It's very much the same way it is in our medical system today, where a lot of people I know avoid doctors, not just because they're nervous about going to a doctor, but because it's just so expensive. Every time you walk into a doctor's office, they run a bunch of tests. Those are all expensive. Your insurance doesn't cover it. And then if you get prescriptions, those are expensive. Everything you do in the medical just costs money. It doesn't seem like you ever get something that's even a fair value in medicine anymore. Right. And so in the legal world, how that works is a business owner has a legal question. They recognize they have a legal question and they don't know a lawyer. So then here's their process. They have to Google it or ask their friends who to go see. Then they make an appointment. That appointment may be a week out. Then they get in and the lawyer may charge them for a consultation fee if they're smart. And then they do a consultation and the lawyer tells them they can't help them, but we'll need $5,000 in a retainer that we can start billing against at $400 to $500 an hour. Wow, that sounds really great. It's just a really broken model.
For a lawyer, that sounds really great.
Yes, for most things.
Right.
It's like I just had a question. This idea kind of started when we created our firm back in 2005. I was in kind of an office complex with other entrepreneurs, small business owners. And I remember one of them, we were having coffee one day and I can't afford your services because I was traditional model, but I need them. I wish there was another method for guys like me could afford guys like you. And that really stuck with me. And then 5-6 years later, I start hiring business coaches to help me create this model where we could provide on-demand legal services to the small business person, startup all the way to 20 million, in a way that makes sense. And the only model that made sense was that you have a set monthly cost that gives you access on demand to a legal team that can answer your questions, so that if you're in a meeting and have something come up that is legal and you don't know what to do, you can step out of the meeting, or you can send a text or an email to your legal team, get an answer back, go back into the meeting, and do the deal with knowing you had the best information possible to make the best decision possible. I like to say that having the right information at the right time is often the difference between success and failure.
Yeah.
Like Curtis, if you were to drive by my house here in Texas and see smoke coming out of my roof, you would call me and say, Scott, I just saw smoke coming out of your roof. Is everyone okay? And I would say, no, I'm gone. Please make sure everyone's out of the house. You call the fire department and you save everything, right? You're the hero. Same thing happens. You call me, you drive by, you see the smoke, and you call me the next day. The information is the same. It's accurate. It's just a day late. And in business, time is everything.
Yeah.
So you need to have a system for getting that information, right? And that's a good lead in to the first strategy of shatterproofing your business. The first strategy is you have to assemble a team of key advisors, right? So that you have access to these advisors on demand when you need them. The first one you need is a certified public accountant that can help you keep score. If you need to try to find one that isn't just a historian, that they're not just going to tell you where you've been,
right,
but they'll help you create strategies for moving forward to keep more of your money and to understand the financial side of your business. They're invaluable. But you need one that you can call, that you have their cell phone number. So if you have a question about your books, if you have a question about your profit and loss statement, you can get information from them so you can make a decision and move forward. They should create a financial dashboard for you so that they make it simple, right? And they exist. You may have to work a little bit to find them, but they do exist. The next key advisor that you need is you need a banker. Some people, when they hear me, they think I'm saying bank. No. Everyone has to have somewhere to put their money. That's right. A bank. You need a banker. You need a relationship. And that may require you to leave your house and go shake someone's hand, hand them a donut, and have a cup of coffee so that they get to know you, you get to know them, and you end up with their cell phone number so that they'll take your calls when you have a cash crunch.
Yeah. It's funny. My dad, to that point, my dad used to tell me, I remember I was in high school, he would take me to the bank. They had a little bit more ability to do stuff than they do now. But he says, listen, never just go to the teller. You need to go in, you need to meet people, you need to meet the people behind the desk, and have a relationship. And so I learned that, I remember I met this person. This is like, so I'm graduate high school in 81. And remember money market accounts were like 18%,
Right.
And his, I remember her name was Edna, right? And I still remember her. He says, "Oh, this and money markets." But he had a relationship because we had a supermarket, so he was in the bank all the time, so he could get signature loans and that type of stuff because he had a relationship and he was doing that type of business. So even when I went to college, he said, "Look, the first thing you do, every time I went away, I was in New England. You open up a bank account, you go meet people. You need to have a way to do business." This is before.
Right.
Now it's more like I have Wells Fargo. So now they're all over the place. But before they were more regional. So I would go to New England. I got a New England bank so that if they could wire me money or I had to do something, I had a way to do business. And I think that is key. You got to have you need access to capital. Banking is critical. So keep going. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, and most small business owners have experienced a time where their bank account wasn't where it was supposed to be, and there was some opportunity in front of them that if they could just write a check for a little more than in that bank account, they could close a deal. And they need, if they have the right banker, they can call them and say, "Look, I'll have the money there in the morning, but I need to write a check today." And with that right banking relationship, you can write that check and it not bounce. It's huge. especially in startup mode when you're bootstrapping. You need that relationship. You need someone to go fight for you in front of a loan committee if you're looking for a loan. You need that person. And to do that, you have to spend some time and build that relationship like you were talking about. And it's not that you can't use a big bank. You can. You just have to go in, and you may have to do it more often because there's a lot more churn in those big banks.
Yeah.
But whoever has the best services and products for you, that's where you go. But there are a lot of smaller regional banks that can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
The next relationship you need is an insurance broker. Prefer independent insurance brokers if possible because they can write anything they want to. And the idea is that they examine your business, they get to know your business, and they tell you all the coverage you need to cover your exposure. And you may not be able to afford it, but now you know. Knowledge is power. G.I. Joe always said, knowing is half the battle. Yeah. So if you then know, then you just start knocking those things off, getting the ones you can as you can afford it. And that gives you peace of mind knowing that you've got coverage if a liability event occurs, or really when one occurs.
Yeah, insurance is key, like the center, so that, that's what we specialize in. And, principle 2 in our 5-step process is maximum protection, across the board. You have to have, and so what I do is I'll show it. You may not be able to do it, but you can't say Curtis didn't tell you what you're supposed to have.
That's right.
And because too many people you're working to build this stuff, but you think of it as a expense that keeps you from saving or investing, but you have to, what I call, play defense, because so if you've got property and you got to protect yourself from liability, people say, I have asset protection. Well, the first level of that is insurance. Okay. Amen. Not, I want to get a bunch of entities. No, you need to have liability. You may need an umbrella coverage. You got to make sure your homeowners is right. And then on top of that, you may throw a liability plan, and that's your first layer of defense is insurance.
That's right. It's no longer if you're going to get sued. It's just when. In our environment. Over 20 million suits filed every year. It's bad out there. So you need to have someone in place that will defend you, that you don't have to pay. And so you want to prepay that with insurance.
Somebody told me it's 2 types of businesses. It's only 2 types of business. The ones that either have been sued or will be sued, right?
That's right.
And so you have to play defense because it's everybody is like the world is so litigious, especially United States. You have all these advertisements. Oh, did you slip? Somebody is at fault. Why can't it just be, okay, you're clumsy? And no, somebody's got to pay. And that's the mentality that's out there. And so you have to defend yourself from that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so another place that you need to play defense is you do need to have a lawyer on your team.
Yeah.
And we talked about this already a little bit, but so you need to go interview the lawyers now while you don't have trouble. You need to lock down how you're going to pay them. Mm-hmm. I prefer a subscription model like our Access plan, where you can call, text, email, make appointments on short notice. And most important is know how you're going to pay them. Have that all locked down. Otherwise, it's like buying plywood in a hurricane. It's a bad idea.
Right.
You want to have that beforehand, right? It's either going to be expensive or they're going to be out. Go ahead and lock that down. Get that relationship in place because they can help you as you're playing defense, make sure that you have the right structures in place and all that stuff. And then they can answer your questions on the fly and they can protect you if someone comes after you. So get that key role in place. And then the final one is that you need to have a business coach. Everyone needs to have someone that's coaching them. Mentors are awesome, and you should have mentors too. But when you don't have any skin in the game with the mentor. With a coach, you're paying them. And I have found when I pay someone to help me, I'm much more likely to do what they say.
Yes, you pay attention,
right? And so to me, it made a huge difference for me when I did that in 2012. And it took me a little bit to find the right coach, but when I did, I was able to make exponential steps. By myself, I could grow very incrementally. And so it's not impossible. But if you really want to do something with your life and your business, you need coaches. If I'm trying to get in shape, I need a personal trainer to coach me through that. A buddy to work out with is great, but if I really want to make strides, a personal trainer is how you do it. If you want to get your financial world in order, you need a wealth coach, someone that can do what Curtis does to show you the strategies and then hold you accountable to implementing the strategies. It's just how it works. And so if you get that business coach in place that rounds out that team of key advisors, and now you're ready to implement the other strategies.
Kiyosaki says business is a team sport, and you got to have a bigger brain, because you got to know your thing, but you can't know everything, and really you shouldn't try. You got to make the main thing. And I love that idea. So I'm really curious about your Ziglar relationship, and can you how'd you get into that, and what's your relationship with that organization? Because I loved him. I saw him. This was like about 15 years ago. He was already 70 something, right? This was at like an ACN, like a network marketing conference, and he was just all over the stage and kneeling. I was like, this man is, old enough to be my grandfather, and he was like totally on point, just a live wire. And I was like, wow, I want to be like him when I grow up. And this,
That's right.
And he had to have been 75 at the time, and it was unbelievable. So, so I'm a big, especially early in my sales career, I studied all things at Ziglar. So
you bet.
At the top, all of it, So anyway, so I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun, and it's really great being associated with their family and the company. And it really was providential. I decided with my business coach that one of the target markets I wanted to work with was speakers, trainers, and coaches. Mm-hmm. And I ran across there was a lawyer coach that I had been following for a while, and he was offering a certification on how to be the lawyer for speakers, trainers, and coaches. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. So I get on a discovery call with him. I decide that sounds like something good for me to do. It was way more money than I'd ever spent on any kind of coaching. I really didn't even have it, but I did it. And so I flew to Atlanta, did a 3-day mastermind event with that group, learning that information. And our homework when we came back was to go to a live event, take notes on what they're doing at this big motivational or sales event, and then come back to the group. And so I got back to Dallas area, and the only name I knew was Ziglar. And I sure didn't want to fly back to the West Coast, or I wanted to do something a little closer to home. And so I Googled Ziglar, and they had 2 events in that time frame. One was in Dallas, but I could only go to part of it, and then one was in Houston. So I got on a plane late at night, flew to Houston, got up, took a cab out to this hotel in the middle of nowhere, and walked into their what's called a Born to Win event. Tom Ziglar steps up and starts doing his thing. And Tom's the proud son of Zig, and now a great friend. But at that point, he was a complete stranger. He does his thing, and then his partner in crime, Howard Partridge, gets up there and does his thing. And I was pretty amazed. And then it's lunchtime, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm up at the front desk asking, hey, where do we go to lunch? And they're like, well, we have a vending machine. There's really no restaurants close enough to walk to. You'd have to get a cab. Well, Howard walks up behind me. I guess he had heard and said, hey, do you need a ride to lunch? And I'm like, man, that'd be great. And so I get to ride with Howard Partridge to lunch. He's going to meet with this group called his Inner Circle, some of his coaching clients. Mm-hmm. And so he's coaching me all the way over there. And then we eat lunch. And on the way back, he's like, how are you getting to the airport? I'm like, well, I guess I'll call the cab that brought me here. He's like, no, you don't need to do that. Tom will take you. I'm like, Tom who? He said, Tom Ziglar. I'm like, you're kidding me. He's like, no, he'll take you. So we walk in. He goes, hey, Tom, you need to take Scott to the airport. He goes, so Tom says, great, I'm leaving at 4:30. Let's have your bags ready. And so we walk out together. We get into Houston traffic in his rental car for an hour and a half. And I'm riding around with Tom Ziglar. And it was really a surreal experience because it's Tom's voice, which is not Zig's, but everything he's saying, it's just all this, all this Zig wisdom. Yeah. It was crazy. And so we really kind of hit it off, connected, got to the airport. We were both going to Dallas on different planes. So we shook hands, and I thought, well, I'll never see this guy again. But I called my dad, and Dad was in sales. I was like, you're not going to believe what I just did. And he was excited. And so we get back to Dallas, and the other event that I could only go to part of was the next week. And so I finished what I had to do in court that morning and drove about 30 miles to get to that event and got there just right before lunch. And I walk in, and they make a big deal of me showing up. And then some of the Ziglar Inc. employees were there. And so I got to meet them, and they started asking me, what I do and how I do it. And one of the guys that was really had been close to Zig said, we really need that here. We've worked with some really big law firms, but we need someone that can do what you do for the organization. And I'm like, great, sign me up. So he set me up with a lunch with Tom about 3 weeks later. So this was November of 2014. I went to lunch. I had my sales presentation ready. I'm like, okay, these guys are the sales gurus. So I said, Tom, after we eat, would you mind if I ran through my sales presentation for you? And you just kind of tell me what you think. And so I did my sales presentation, got done, and asked Tom, is there any reason you wouldn't want to do business with me today? He signed up for Access and has been an Access. His company's been an Access client ever since. I actually had his call yesterday. So I talked to him at least once a month.
Okay.
I've then gone through their Ziglar certification training so that I can teach courses like Build a Better You, goal setting, goal planning, several other courses. And then I speak at most of their quarterly conferences to help small business owners take care of the legal perspective inside of their business.
But you also teach their stuff. You're certified in their method. Do you find that helps, like, as that a value add? As I know you have the subscription business, but the fact that does that kind of give you a unique perspective, or when they're getting you, does that help in your coaching with your business clients that are signing up with you?
Yeah, it really does. A lot of times there's not a critical legal issue that they're facing at that moment. Mm-hmm. They've got some other problem, and I'm able to use the training I have to help them with those problems. Or I also do come in to, like, we're working with a real estate team right now that I'll go in-house and do actual training with them. I don't know any other lawyers that can do that. And so we go in and we'll do, I'll do some of the Ziglar material and then break out into some of my own and help them with their team growth and their team planning, because that's really one of the biggest struggles that small business owners have, other than money, is their team. Howard Partridge always says you either have to build up a team or give up the dream. And so a lot of business owners give up the dream. A lot of times they have the right people. They just don't know how to utilize them. They don't know how to train them. And so I try to show them by example how they can lead meetings, how they can train their people, how they can create their mission, create their core values, and then use those for basis to tag in their team meetings as they try to keep that culture and keep growing.
Scott, with that kind of stuff, because that is major. I think that wow, this has been powerful. So, Tom, tell them about anything that you left out that you want to share about Reeb Law or the Access program and how they can get in touch with you.
The Access program really is meant for all small business owners, right? It's very affordable. The plan starts at $325 a month. There's 3 levels to it, but it starts at $325 a month. Mm-hmm. So for less than $4,000 a year, you can make sure you have on-demand legal protection, which you can't find that kind of resource anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So I would really encourage you to check us out. And you can do that by going to reeblaw.com, REIBLAW.com /practical wealth. And we will have a special offer for your listeners, Curtis. Awesome. They'll get a 15-minute, what I call laser legal coaching session with me. Mm-hmm. And then they can also download my book, The 5 Proven Strategies to Shatterproof Your Business, which will give them the rest of the strategies that we've just broken into just a little bit here today. And then it'll give me a chance to get with them and see if there's something I can do to help them quickly. And then give them the ability to become Access members if that's what they want to do.
Awesome. So you're in Denton, Texas, but you will work nationally.
You bet. I perform general counsel services. All the work is done here at the mothership in Texas, but we have clients that want us to help them with that stuff all over the world. And then we have to find lawyers locally sometimes to do, if someone has to be in court, if they have an immigration issue then we find someone to do that for them, and then we quarterback it. It's worked really well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's funny. My wife says every county is like a separate state, and so you kind of, so you think more strategically
Correct.
I would say. And then now you can find tactical people to go in and do the strategy that you've applied. They're all, competent attorneys, but you got to, hey, I need you to be here at XYZ courthouse and,
That's right.
in the middle of nowhere. All right. Yeah. Let me get you somebody that knows the people in the area and part of the old boy network, that whole thing. Cause that's a real thing. That is awesome. So we appreciate that. So we will put the link in the show notes.
Great.
I think that you dropped a lot of value here. I look forward to getting the book myself because I love the way you put the how to shatterproof, because you have to play defense. I teach people their number one asset. The number one asset is them, right? But I believe your number one investment is a business owner, because it's interesting to me that you didn't have I'm sure you like them, but you didn't have a financial advisor on there because what happens is most times the typical advice, they're training you to send your money away from your business, put it in the mutual stock market, and you don't really need to do that. Your business is your number one investment and generating cash flow. So to me, when I look at this, you're playing defense, you're watching your numbers, you're getting access to capital, you're protecting yourself with insurance and legal services. As preventive law, I call that protection, and making sure that you have somebody look at it before you sign stuff, not after. It's like, oh, what do you think? I just signed this thing. What do you think? No, that's too late. Okay. You got to do it before. And then the business coaching, I hadn't had anybody put that in place, but that's, more than a mentor, but really a coach. So it seems like, Scott, that you have the ability to really serve in both capacities. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
You are who you are and where you are because of what you've put in your mind, and you can change who you are and where you are by changing what you put in your mind. And listening to shows just like this one, the Practical Wealth Show, will do that for you. But don't get discouraged. If you aren't where you want to be, just change what's going in your mind, and you can change where you are.
I can't close any better than that. So I'm going to say, Scott, thank you for dropping these knowledge bombs on our listeners. And so this is Curtis May for the Practical Wealth Show. Again, we thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Go out there and make it a prosperous day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.